Has your school been thinking about year-round sports programs? Are you curious about what it would look like and how it would get started? Is this something that could or could not fit into your international school program? In today's episode, we will explore these questions and more with our guest, Chris Mott, the athletic director from Colegio Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the American School of Lima, Peru. Chris has successfully introduced year-round sports programs at all divisional levels at his school and will share with us how he did it and how it works. This is Matt Fleming, and welcome to this episode of the Globetrottin ADs.
Well, hello, and this is Nick DeForest. Thanks, Matt. And before we get into Chris Mott and the meat of this episode, we just want to recap a bit of episode 2 and throw some shout outs. And it was a really good episode, we thought, for our first one, and we got some good feedback through email and social media again. And we actually got emails from 2 host country ADs who wrote me and said that they had the same experience as Yone, being that they felt no bad vibes from any of the international teachers at the school about them being only from the host country. So that was good to hear that it wasn't just Yone, but we'd like to hear from more of you out there.
Yeah, big thanks to Yanni again for his insights and contributing to the show. So once again, we just want to encourage people to write us and share their experiences or feelings about anything we talk about. You can always contact us through the website or our Twitter feed and drop us a line and let us know what's going on.
All right, and also this week we've nailed down a couple guests for upcoming podcasts, and one to mention is James Cochran, who's starting a conference, the Future of Sports Coaching Conference. He's the AD in Dusseldorf, Germany. And we've updated the website already to include his conference, so you can go there and check it out and look for him coming up on the April 5th episode. Also, a big shout out to a colleague and friend of mine, Jim Ellis. He is kind of a go-to guy for me for a lot of my questions and tips, and he's just a great sounding board. He's had all the podcasting info that I needed to get started. And he's also the provider of the microphone and cables and everything we're using to record this episode. So thanks a lot, Jim. And couldn't be here
thanks for letting us bum your stuff. Maybe one day we'll get our own.
Let's take a quick ad break. If your school is in the market for bespoke sportswear, look no further than Kukri Sports. Kukri has evolved over the last 20 years from a bespoke sportswear manufacturer into a true sportswear partner, firmly believing in the value of sport at all levels. Bespoke teamwear forms a unique part of an individual's sporting story and represents a lasting link to their time in sport. Kukri are proud to play a part in that journey. Every individual can build their own legacy. Kukri Sports creates a sportswear range that inspires as well as performs. Start your journey today. Email the team at contact@kukrisports.com. Okay, we'd like to welcome Chris now to the show. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. With every one of our guests, we want to first get to know you a little bit, or have our listeners get to know you. Anyone who listened to the first episode heard a bit about you, but maybe if you could just elaborate on where you're working now, where have you worked before, and kind of how you got into the AD role.
Yeah, thanks, Nick and Matt, for having me. It's great to get involved. My name is Chris Mott. I'm originally from Australia, and I've been living and working internationally now for about 20 years. I'm currently at the American School of Lima, Colegio Roosevelt, which is a student population of around 1,800. And this is my 5th year working there in Lima, and it's been great. Previous to Lima, I've worked in Abu Dhabi, before that Istanbul, before that Estonia, before that Tokyo. Before that, I was in Oman, in Muscat, and before that, London. And then obviously I started my career in Australia. I kind of fell into it. I was lucky. I mean, Australia doesn't really have athletic administrators. I was in my school in Australia, and I kind of stumbled across this idea of athletic administrator, and people get paid to organize sports in schools. And I kind of I couldn't believe it was a real job. So I looked at it and kind of moved in that direction. And I don't know, I just got lucky and fell in love with the idea of the athletic administration and just continued along that path. And it's served me well over the last few years. I mean, just this whole idea of moving kids internationally or locally through tournaments and really making a change in their lives as they travel around the world with their parents it's just so exciting, and I just love it.
Oh, that's cool. And you're traveling right along with them. It's easy to forget where you've been when it's been so many places.
Totally. We call ourselves the four continent family. My wife is from Canada, and we met in Tokyo, and we were married in Thailand. And my daughter, who's 9, Eve, she was born in Istanbul, and my son Hudson, who's 5, he was born in Abu Dhabi. And we live out of Florida. So, wow. My kids are third culture kids. And we've all been born on different continents. So we call ourselves a four continent family, not really sure where we belong and what we do. We just landed yesterday from Australia. We've been in Australia for 2.5 weeks. So the kids are really getting to know the world.
It doesn't get much more international than that. I didn't realize that. That's pretty cool.
Well, we have you on the show and to talk about year-long athletics, I guess kind of versus the 3-season athletic model that I think most international schools have. Most of our conferences are divided in 3 basically equal seasons with teams that do not overlap, where an athlete can play 1 sport per season. But in Lima, you have something a bit different than that. That's why I think you're a great guest for us today and can share how you got that to be in Lima.
Yeah, I kind of fell into it. I want to preface it a little bit with, I believe in seasons. I believe that kids need to play multi-sports, and I think it's an important part of the kids' lives. But at the same time, we have a responsibility, no matter where we're working and what we're doing, to try and adapt and understand what the local community and market needs and requires for growth to happen. At the end of the day, we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to grow programs and get as many kids involved in as many different sports as we possibly can. Mm-hmm. And in Lima, it just so happens that, a year-long program works for that community. The 2 or 3 previous athletic administrators before me, they tried to do the whole season thing, and all the documentation and everything, all the planning and all the things that they had left me pointed towards this idea of seasons. But one of the first things I did in Lima was I did a self-study. I did an internal self-study to try and understand what the community was looking for, what resources we kind of had available to us, and what opportunities we could follow. And from that information, we kind of sat down as a middle school principal and a high school principal, elementary school principal, the director, and myself. And I asked some really important questions about, are we creating something that's, a cookie cutter approach here? Are you looking for a traditional international program, that everyone's kind of expected to do? Or do you want to be a little bit more adventurous, and do you want to explore what could be possible in the community? And along with everybody else, we chose to go with kind of exploring what was possible, and hence this idea of a year-long program that has seasons, and it kind of ebbs and flows, and it's super busy and interesting.
Within your year-long program, you mentioned you have seasons. How does that work?
Well, we still have the traditional idea of, kids travel. There's a soccer tournament. They travel to Argentina or wherever they're going for their soccer tournament. So there's still a finite, there's still a defined season. There's still an understanding that within, August through November, it's soccer. And then from November through March, they're doing something else. They're doing basketball or they're doing volleyball. So we still run an international seasons approach, but there's so many kids doing so many sports that we also offer those extensions. So I'll try and give you an example. I think we maybe have to also come back to where I started from, but let me give you a quick example. It's a high school student in grade 9 who does, a three season kind of athlete. They could come in and they could do first season, they could play volleyball. Second season, they could play soccer. And then in third season, they could play basketball. They could do that and they can continue their 3 seasons approach and nothing would change. A local student who's really only interested in playing either volleyball or soccer can continue that the entire year. They can travel internationally and they can still be involved in the 2 different local leagues that we have running. So regardless of what they want to do, they can have something happening. We have students right now that will play volleyball and they'll play soccer. They'll travel for the international volleyball, but they'll also play for the local football league. So they're playing. I'm finding, or I've found, that this community is playing and doing more with the program that we've set up.
Chris, I just want to jump in. We'll get back to the kind of like the genesis of this and how you began. I'm really interested about the survey part as well. But can you clarify which sports you're doing this for? Is it only in high school or is it also for middle school?
That's a good question. Actually, it's middle school, it's high school, and it's also elementary school. So it's across all the sports. So we offer, the soccer or the football, the basketball, the volleyball, the track and field, the badminton, the table tennis. What have I missed? The track and field, swimming, gymnastics, and that's all. I mean, that's 9, I think. That's what I can remember. But we offer it for all programs for all kids across all ages.
And all of them are all 3 seasons.
Yes.
There's an opportunity for every sport all year round.
Correct. So if you're a new student that jumps in or gets transferred to the school in October, on the first day of your school year, I can set you up with whatever you need. I sit down with new students as they come in to the school and we create a weekly schedule for them.
And how has practice changed from, let's say, that international soccer season in the fall that you mentioned? Would you be practicing more intensely in that season? And then the people that continue with soccer for the rest of the year, a few less days a week? Or
no, we keep the same trainings. We have, up to 4 trainings a week, pretty much for all sports in all categories. You have the traditional 3 days of the week. And then I kind of really focus on Saturday as a game day or, for younger kids to come in. Saturday is probably the busiest day on campus. But we play somewhere in the vicinity of 600 games a year across all the sports.
Wow, for a school of 1,800, there's lots going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, we have one local league that has 18 schools involved, and we have another local league. I think it has like 24 schools involved. So any kind of local league will play for anything from 6 to 8 weeks. And then we also offer an extension program, which is kind of club competition specifically for volleyball, basketball, and soccer in the high school, where we enter our kids from our school into tournaments that are just club based.
So that's with local clubs in Lima.
Yeah, okay. And that's really kind of an extension and a growth program as we look to trying to push the envelope and the understanding of what's possible. In some of the leagues that I've been involved in before, it was always, okay, when I was in Istanbul, I remember, okay, we've got to prepare ourselves to go to the tournament to go and beat Moscow, because Moscow was the biggest school in the league. And my coaches used to prepare the kids to beat Moscow. Well, my approach now is let's go into the idea of preparing kids for them to be the best they possibly could be in each individual sport. And it's changed the way that kind of training's organized and the philosophy around it.
So it wasn't Budapest? Well, you guys weren't gunning for Budapest?
No.
Well, let me tell you about Istanbul. that's unbelievable. I mean, it's really blowing my mind, like this whole concept, because it's for us, for I guess more traditional folks in international schools, it's really uncharted waters. I mean, we all have kids who are participating in local club programs, and they might play for our school teams. But in terms of our school programming, we simply just don't do many things year round. We offer swimming at our school. We offer swimming kind of year round, but it's not hugely popular. But that's about it in terms of organized sport. We really don't have football year round. We don't have volleyball year round. Basketball, we kind of have a club approach. We have one of our PE teachers who's Hungarian, and she's tied in with the club system, and she's been able to get that up and going, which has been successful. But that's about it. So it's amazing that you have about 8 or 9 different sports that are running at all those different levels.
And I think we just couldn't. Well, we're only 800. I think we're similar size to you, Matt, and we just wouldn't have the kids, but also coaches. So we have coaches coaching 3 seasons.
That's one of my questions too. Yeah.
Right. Who are your coaches, Chris, and how often are they coaching for you?
I have 92 coaching staff, and they're predominantly external. They're 90% external coaches, 10% teachers from the school. The main reason for that is just because of the sheer size of the program and the commitment to it. Those coaches offer programs, from 2:00 in the afternoon all the way through until 6, 7, 8 o'clock. It really depends on what times games and things finish. My coaches go up according to how many hours I need them to be around, and then how many kids I have in different sports. And just to answer your question there, Matt, not your question, but your thought that, you have kids in clubs, but, I come at from the approach of, well, that's kind of my responsibility for these kids. These kids, it's not their fault they're going to school internationally. They've been put in a situation where their parents travel. So I come from the idea of it's my responsibility to help them continue to be involved in what they want to. And not every country and every city is it so easy to jump into a club. It's not that easy. But it's easy for me to go and ask for funding to provide that for those students so they can continue. So when they return to the States, or when they return or they go to a new country, they've been able to keep up the level of competition that they want to.
It's phenomenal. So I think we're going to come back to that, because I have a couple questions about clubs and then also the fees, which you just mentioned. Could we go back to the beginning of this process and how you were able to manage your survey, and then getting input from the community, and kind of like the timeline of implementing this year-round program?
Well, what I did is I brought in community members. I mean, when I first entered the school, there wasn't a lot happening. The kids were playing in clubs. The kids weren't even playing in the school. Sure, I had an international team in high school to travel, because that's always exciting. But I didn't really have, that idea where you offer girls volleyball and you have 40 girls turn up to try out for the team. I would have 15 or 18 girls that would come, and the best players wouldn't even try out. The best players were like, well, I can't give up my club experience, because that's where I'm getting really good competition, and I want to be a good player, which I understood. So I kind of took that, and then I took the idea of, what population I had in the school and how I was going to grow it. And then we just really kind of looked and took a leap of faith, to be honest with you. I mean, I was very lucky that I had the funding from the community and from the board support. I had pretty good facilities at the time, not as good as what we have now, because the programs have grown so much that we've just had to continue building. But we just took a leap of faith, and it worked out. Parents are really been the driving force. They were looking for something substantial that they could get their kids involved in, and I was just in the right place at the right time and with around the right people. That's just how it happens.
I think you mentioned before that the 2 ADs before you, everything they left pointed to seasons and not to do this. But you
Correct.
investigated it anyway, and it's working out great. So, hats off to you. That's amazing.
It's working out really well there.
Did you start with one sport in particular, or did you introduce a couple of sports, or how did you do that?
Oh, well, what I did was I took the elementary kids and I started with the elementary, and I created what I call Condor Academy, where the condors. Being in South America, there's like 4,700 condors, but we're the condors. And I created a program centered around building capacity in the future for everything that what we wanted to achieve. And what we saw was a lot of kids just flocking to programs, getting in and wanting to be involved. So we offer what we call Condor Academy, which is like a beginning program. And that's typically for kids who are 6 and 7 years of age. And then after they kind of come out of Condor Academy, they go into our elementary school competitive programs. And from there, they move directly into the middle school. And from middle school, they obviously move into high school. But I created a program, firstly for elementary school, that they could get involved. And I just watched that program grow and grow and grow and grow. So much so that I had to double my coaching staff in about 4 months. Like, I had to go out and find all these people. I mean, like I said, 5 years ago, we probably had, 60 to 80 kids playing soccer. Right now, I think we have about 642 kids playing soccer. So just the sheer number of people that have joined the program is crazy. And then I took my middle school program and I took a multi-sport approach. I made sure that a middle school kid could do at least 3 sports within, a 6-day cycle. So every week, a middle school kid, if they really wanted to, could go and play 3 sports and be a multi-sport athlete. And they could jump in and out. They could choose to do kind of 2 days of basketball, 1 day of volleyball, and 1 or 2 days of track and field. The program would allow them to have that out. And then by the time they hit grade 9, it was more of a traditional, okay, you've got 4 days a week training. You're expected to be there for all of them. And that's how I set it up. And it was really like just flicking a switch. It was just, okay, this is what we're going to do. I put the schedule together. I sent it out, and I sat around and not sat around, but I sat and waited for kids to come.
So very soccer cool. Was the thing you started with first?
Soccer is the one. Being in South America, absolutely. Soccer was the one I started with in the lower school, but I did all of them at the same time. I want soccer to be the focus. I made sure that volleyball and basketball and gymnastics and swimming all had the same schedule and access.
Well, you mentioned 92 coaches and having to get, double your coaching staff almost overnight. With finding qualified coaches being one of an international AD's main concern, what are your coaches like? Do they speak English fluently? Are they expats?
Yeah, they're local Peruvians.
Mm-hmm.
I do have some internationals, but like I said before, that 90% of those coaches are coming. They're not part of the school.
Right.
They're part of the school in terms of coaching capacity. Sure. I would say they don't necessarily speak English. They predominantly would coach in Spanish. My school population is 50% Peruvian and 50% international.
Okay.
So, a new student coming in from Australia or something like that, will have a difficult kind of transition sometimes because they don't have the Spanish. But I always have students who, I pair them up and I get them in there and I make sure that they have someone helping them translate as I move through. I offered English lessons 2 times a week for all my coaches. I've done that for the last 4 years. Wow. And that's really more of a conversational. I mean, trying to teach them a coaching language is very difficult, but teaching them conversational has been somewhat successful.
Who do you get to facilitate that?
I have an outside person who comes in, like a language school.
Does that come out of your budget as well, or is that?
Actually, the school supported and it goes through professional development through the whole school. Yeah.
That's pretty unique. That's cool.
Are you paying better than they would get locally? Is that a draw for them to get so many, or are there just that many
Um,
people out there?
I think it's like everything, Nick. You offer an opportunity for someone to come in and do what they know and to create a program, and that's exciting. You know,
Mm-hmm.
to reach out. I mean, my volleyball coaches are very experienced. They've most of them have played for the Peruvian national women's team, or my boys coach has played for the Venezuelan national team. My other boys coaches played for the Peruvian national team, so they know their stuff, um, and they've been a part of a program before, but they haven't always had the opportunity to go and do what they feel is the best way to coach, and that's what we offer. Do we, we offer a pretty good salary. It's hourly based. But they get so many opportunities that it's I from what I understand, what they tell me, it's a good environment to be in.
Wow, great. Yeah, it seems like a great atmosphere on campus, right? With so many, I
Yeah,
guess,
it's
happy
great.
kids playing the sports they want to play on the days they want to do them. So,
And what kind of administrative support do you have in terms of assistance? Do you have an assistant or a couple of folks to help you out? Because I'm imagining you have to deal a lot with local, the local leagues, the local associations, and registrations and all that stuff.
Yeah, I have two office assistants who do the most of the communication, and then there's me. So we're pretty busy. There's only the three of us. No assistant, associate AD, or anything else like that at the moment. No.
I want to ask you about that survey you had mentioned earlier. What kind of questions did you put in there, or how did you craft the survey? And like, how many questions did you put in there, or did you get input from the rest of the community before you published it?
We follow it's kind of like a CIS accreditation visit platform. We just looked at that and sent that out and look for feedback, look for understanding of what people, if you had a blank piece of paper and you had an opportunity to create a program within a school, what would it look like? And then combining kind of what the parents' feedback and what the students' feedback was. They were honestly, they said we would just like to have programs within the school. And they didn't really go beyond that. They just said we would really like an opportunity to play for our school.
Those kids that were in the club systems,
Yeah.
they wanted a chance to play for the school, represent the
Yes.
school.
Yeah, they wanted a chance to represent the school, but also to represent the school with a competitive team.
Okay.
It's one thing to create a program where you've just got people running around doing things. It's another thing to create a program focused on development, which, as you both know, is to always be pushing the bar forward and having kind of coaches teaching more and growing and not just doing the same thing training after training, month after month is a difficult task. But
yeah,
that's what we've sought out.
Yeah, keeping the kids engaged for that whole time, right?
Yeah, and it's a challenge. Like, don't get me wrong, we have our complications. We don't always. We have coaches that maybe aren't doing what they should be doing, and that's a conversation that we have to have with them. But for the most part, by the time you break it all down, you've got two local tournaments and an international tournament. Then we send some of our kids to Orlando to play at the Disney tournaments. We have teams that fly to Gothenburg for the soccer tournament up there. So by the time you all break it down, there's not a lot of downtime. Kids are kind of very busy.
And what is a kid that plays on, let's say, one season? What do they pay? Do they pay a travel fee? Do they pay a fee just to be on the team? How is it all covered?
A lot of funding from the board, which we're very
Okay.
appreciative of. If they travel internationally, it's you pay for your flight and the contribution towards coaches. If it's just local, the only cost to you is your uniform. We don't provide uniforms. Kids are expected to purchase their own uniform. But other than that, we cover all the entrance fees, all the transport fees, anything like that, all the coaches' fees, everything.
Do you have a problem getting kids to travel international? Are
No.
your rosters filled?
Rosters are always full, yeah.
I mean, that would be my biggest worry. I mean, we're not thinking of going to this, but if we were, the first thing I think of, what sports would we have to drop to be able to make some of them year round? Because we just wouldn't have the kids.
That's always a concern because my concern at our school, I just don't think we have the numbers, specifically in the high school, to support a year-round program of sorts. But I get this feeling like if we do it, we'd be robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what do we have to give up in order to gain a year-round program in a particular sport? Because to me, it seems like something would have to give.
I wanted to preface it like this works really well for this community.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because like Nick had mentioned at the beginning, this is a question we've received at my school. That it's in particular has come from our director. He does a survey, kind of an informal survey with seniors before they graduate, and he mentioned to me one of the things they've said on their exit interviews is that they would like to have a year-round opportunity, and it didn't really go much further than that in terms of like, okay, how are we going to get this? How are we going to go about this? Are we going to make it happen? Or are we just going to kind of talk about it, see what the possibilities could be? And it's still a big question for me. Like, if we wanted to approach it, how would we go about doing it? And I'm not really sure what the answer is.
Well, I mean, the other big school in Vienna has gone a bit to year-round programs, I guess similar, and they've offered their international travel team 3 days a week, and then a club team the other 2 days. So, a soccer player can play soccer for 3 days a week in the fall, and then in the winter he can continue for 2 days. I think they've only done it for soccer and basketball yet. I'm sure they'll correct me if they hear this. And it seems to be working okay, but the numbers are down. They're having teams at all levels still, but the numbers are much lower than they were because maybe the athlete who's a basketball player, last year he'd play soccer in the fall, but now he's doing club basketball for 2 days a week.
Right.
So they're...
Well, and I think we're still correcting ourselves. Like, we're still kind of moving through that. It's only been, with the program we have now, it's only been a good, 2.5 years that it's been running in the capacity it is. So it's still, relatively new. But we're seeing a lot of kids. I mean, a good question from a parent is always, well, why do you run swimming year round, but you don't run basketball year round? And that's a difficult question to answer sometimes.
Matt, what's your answer to that? Because you said you run swimming year round.
We offer it, but it's not at a competitive level. It's more of an opportunity for kids who are interested to swim more if they're not doing a particular sport in the off season. So, for example, if it's in the fall or the spring, there is an opportunity for them to join. The coaches who run it, they run it as what we call a hosted club. So there is a fee involved, so they have to pay extra for it because it's not part of our regular sport program and what we offer in season.
Right.
But we also have, like I mentioned before, we do have basketball. There is a basketball opportunity, but that's extra as well. That's outside of the school, and it's become a bit of a conflict as well philosophically with our school director in terms of how we offer our facilities to this group, even though it's all of our kids involved in the program, and the coach is also one of our PE teachers. She's Hungarian, but it's a little bit of a quandary, I suppose, right now, and it's still kind of new. Like, how do we deal with this?
Yeah, that's interesting, Matt, because we had a couple of clubs, providers coming in when I was there, and I moved them out. I got rid of them because of the things that you're suggesting. You don't know what they're doing. They're using our facilities with our kids.
Mm-hmm.
Why not just do it ourselves?
Yeah, and that's a question that's come up as well because, did you have a grip on what their philosophy was as well? In terms of these external folks coming into your school, running their program in your facility, did you feel like philosophically they were lined up with what you were hoping for, or maybe what you would do in your school sport program?
Not really, no. and I didn't feel like that they were representing what we wanted. So, hence the movement.
Uh-huh. And since we're touching on the idea of philosophy of the program, how does the philosophy of your year-round program, is it pretty much the same as your regular in-season programs, like in terms of what the expectations are and what you hope the kids will get out of the program? And
we run a no-cut policy. So at no point is any kid ever cut from any group. Yes, we do select teams for tournaments, but we expect coaches to diversify and modify trainings to make sure everyone's involved. When we select a roster of 20 to play in a tournament, we expect every kid to be playing, not every game, but have what I call meaningful playing time at some point during that tournament. I would like to think we don't have different philosophies on the two different programs, but I would need a little bit more time to reflect on how that looks.
In terms of scheduling, facilities, and timetables, and how it all meshes and works together, what are some of the challenges you face, or maybe some pitfalls you've come across? It seems like so much juggling around to do with all these different programs running concurrently.
Yeah, no, not really. Actually, I think there's less.
Or do you go later in the evening, or how's it work?
No, we're lucky enough to have good facilities. Our biggest problem is that we don't have enough court space, and we're working on that, trying to find solutions and build different things. But, once you piece together a program or a schedule, and it doesn't change, it makes life a little bit easier. I'm not always juggling. Friendly games are done during regular practice times. The only time that we really have a problem is when we have local leagues coming in, like a basketball team coming in and needing the court when the volleyball team is training. Those kind of conflicts do happen on a weekly basis, but we work around it. Coaches and kids are pretty flexible, and they all understand that the hierarchy kind of is the local leagues or international league, they have priority, and then we adjust trainings as we need.
So do you make a master schedule for your facilities?
Yeah.
For the competitions, or is it just, how often do you update it?
I would check it. I check it every day. I go through it every day to see, okay, what do we got? We have a big calendar in the office where we have all the games. Some days we have 5 games happening. Some days we have 1 or 0 games happening. It just really depends on what day it is and what we're involved in. And then we just adjust. I just connect with the coaches and just say, hey, just letting you know that there's a soccer game happening this afternoon, so your baseball training is going to need to happen in this other area.
And do you have like a Google Doc or something that you can share with everybody online, or how's that?
For the games or training? Yeah, it's just a Google Doc with the different spaces and who's on it and who has the space on that particular day.
Okay.
But the coaches are great about coming in and looking at the game schedule and kind of planning ahead. They won't set up a friendly or a game or anything until they've looked at the schedule to see what's coming up and if the space is even available.
Okay. So for local competitions, are your coaches the ones sorting those out?
No,
Does it come from the league office, or?
It comes from the league office. My office enters it in, and then we get the schedule, and then we kind of send it out to the coaches and the parents. All friendlies are organized by the coaches themselves. They know what they're looking for in terms of the level, and they will bring in a club or a school to make that friendly happen.
And there's away matches as well, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, and for those, just a transportation question. Do you organize the transportation for your kids to get there, or is
Yes.
it on the parents, or do you guys have a busing company you use, or?
We have buses, but we predominantly use busing company just because of the number of buses that we require on a daily basis, and then it's organized through our office. One of the assistants will book the bus in, and we send it out, so everyone knows what they're doing and what time they're leaving school.
Well, Chris, you told us a lot about your school and specifics that obviously work fantastic for you guys. But if anyone out there is listening and is thinking about going to this type of a system for their school, what kind of recommendations do you have for them? What should they take into account? Pitfalls, benefits?
I would suggest to take the time to really think about what it is you're trying to achieve, and do you have the capacity to make it a meaningful program over an extended period of time. As soon as you put kids on a field or a court and they start training, there's this expectation that they're going to play games. Can you find the games needed to keep the program interesting and keep it running? Other than that, it's not going to be for every school, but like I said, I'm a seasons guy. I really enjoy seasons, but I've really enjoyed seeing the growth in the program that we have in Lima, and seeing the amount of kids that are involved on a weekly and daily basis.
Well, that's great. If you're a school out there and you're thinking about it, or you've tried this, or you're already running this model, and then let Matt and I know. Reach out, send us an email, send us a tweet, and let us know if your program is similar to what Chris has been talking about, or maybe a total different direction.
Coach Evaluator is the premier coach evaluation software for schools and athletic organizations, and preferred coach evaluation solution of the NIAAA and the Positive Coaching Alliance. The system is completely customizable with an always growing evaluation template library for athletic directors to reference. Coach Evaluator offers a built-in workflow tracking each coach evaluation from start to finish, including document uploads and email notifications. There are not only evaluations for ADs to use, but also self-evaluations and parent-player evaluations of coaches. There is built-in detailed historical reporting allowing the athletic director to analyze their coach's performance over time. Learn more about digitizing and simplifying your coach evaluation process by visiting www.coachevaluator.com. Mention Globetrottin ADs to receive a $200 discount on the yearly rate. Okay, just a few more questions for Chris. Chris, I'm interested to know about your local clubs there in Lima and how you deal with making those connections or registering with the local clubs and getting your kids involved so that they can participate in their competitions with the local clubs there.
Yeah, I rely a lot on my coaches for that recommendations. They will, if a parent comes in and says, what club could we involved in for my child in which sport, I reach out to the coaches and then they give a recommendation, and then the parent contacts the club directly. I don't get involved with those club contacts. The only time I would be involved in a club contact is when we're running a tournament or we're involved in a tournament and we have to talk to different coaches or clubs about what's happening.
Okay. So in terms of like lining up or meeting their requirements, the local club's requirements, it's all up to the coaches to sort that out with the parents.
It's the coaches will give the recommendation, and then most of the time, 90% of the time, the coach will know the coach of the club, and then the parent will organize the rest from there.
I'm assuming it's relatively inexpensive for them if it's youth level.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know the cost, but I know it's more expensive than a school program because the school program's free.
Uh-huh. And are your kids, is your daughter involved in this, or your son?
Hudson's too young, but Eve's involved in the gymnastics part of it, yeah.
Okay, so it's benefited you as well.
Yeah, no, it's been great.
And then my other question was, it's more towards the international angle. So just so our audience is familiar, who are your international school associations you deal with, or like your international school league with other teams from South America?
Yeah, we're involved in SAC, the South American Activities Conference. That includes Lima, the American School in Quito. Goodness me, I'm going to work down the West Coast. Chile in Nido, and then Montevideo, the American School of Montevideo, International School of Curitiba, Graded, and I think that's 7. I feel like I've missed one. I think I said 6.
And you guys, maybe number 7.
Maybe that's us, number 7. Yeah.
And are they all schools? Are they schools who are similar in size as FDR?
That's a good question. No, actually, we're the 3rd largest. So we're at 18.
Oh, wow.
The largest is the American School of Quito, and I believe they're around 22 to 24,100 kids. And we go all the way down to Montevideo, and they are a school population of 300.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah. And Montevideo has an amazing basketball program, and are often the champions of the basketball tournament international. So it really comes down to what they're doing, but they're involved, and they got kids that are playing 3 sports, and it works. It works.
So they're kind of like the Belgrade of South America.
I suppose.
Well, because Belgrade's had in Serbia, they've had a tradition in our regional association, CISA, of having strong basketball programs. So they have a strong basketball tradition in the country. So it's funny how that works out. The smaller schools have a particular sport that they're pretty good at, and they claim the championships with it. So they've had a run at that here in CISA.
My boys and girls varsity basketball coaches are from Uruguay as well. So I suppose I didn't really think of it like that, but maybe that's the key.
It's in the DNA.
Well, Chris, kind of to close the book on our year-long program conversation, before we let you go, though, we want to talk about a few other things. And one of them would be if anyone comes to Peru or to Lima, give us a bit of an insider tip. What's the main food there, drink? What's the biggest thing to see that you shouldn't miss if you come to Peru?
Well, if you come to Peru, you can't miss the jungle. You've got to go to the Amazon.
Okay.
And the other thing would probably be the Machu Picchu, where you can go up and see the Inca ruins. Those 2 trips are incredible. In terms of food, I mean, Lima is known for its food, its culinary expertise, and I'm going to go on a limb. I think it's either 2 or 3 Michelin star restaurants in the city, and in 5 years, I've never had a bad meal. Peruvian food is incredible, so diverse and so good. And then they have their local drink, or their drink that if you're into it, it's pisco. And I know I've made a couple of pisco drinks for you guys at the national conference, so I know you've experienced that. But
it doesn't quite sound as appetizing for a native English speaker as probably a Peruvian.
No, Peruvians drink a lot of it, but it's a good drink. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
What's been a memorable sporting event in your time in Lima?
From the school attended, or just in general?
Yeah, generally, you gone to a professional match
just
or something like that?
Yeah, just not too long ago, we had hosted the Pan American Games down in Lima. So that was incredible. The facilities they built and everything they did. They had the Pan American, and then they did the Parapan. So the disabled, and I took my kids to both. It was an absolutely amazing experience.
Cool. Well, before we wrap it up, Chris, I just want to give you a special congratulations on being our first Aussie on the podcast.
Brilliant.
So congratulations for that. Granted, you're only the 2nd guest ever, but you are the first Australian. So you can brag to everybody down there in Lima that you can claim that.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, take that with you. And speaking of taking with, we want to congratulate you as well for your new post. You're going to be moving on to Bangkok, to Thailand. So I don't know if you have anything you want to mention about that or what you're looking forward to.
No, I'm really excited about it. Yeah, International School of Bangkok from July. Going to be a great move and a new challenge, and looking forward to kind of learning more about what we do.
Awesome.
Very cool. What's it look like in Lima? I mean, obviously your program is running great. Are they interviewing? Is someone going to continue what you started? Do you know anything yet, or too early?
No, I think it's too early. I think they're interviewing over the next couple of weeks, but I haven't heard. I've asked to see how I can help, but I know we'll continue the program. We just got to try, like everything, you got to find the right person to come in and continue the work.
Right. Well, I mean, anyone listening out there, if you're thinking of a move, Chris seems to have a great setup in Lima. So, take a look at the school's website and maybe take a look at that job.
All right. Well, thanks, Nick. Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Yeah,
thanks for joining us. All the best.
It was great. We know you quite well and see each other often, but you learn things about each other and about each other's schools, doing things like that you would never know. So it's been great for us as well, eh, Matt?
Right on.
All right. Well, to everybody out there listening, thanks for tuning back in to episode 3. We'll say goodbye to you right now and thank you. And just want to let you know that we're looking at an every 2-week schedule, just like this one since episode 2. So, keep busy until February 9th and look for the next episode then.
All right, that wraps up this week's podcast, and we'll see you next time on the Globetrottin ADs.